Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book Building Man Character Lessons from Influencers. No other than Mr. Jim Tracy.
All right. Thank you, Daniel.
Welcome
Pleasure to
to
be here, man. I'm honored.
Yes, welcome to Book 101, Mr. Jim. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Okay, yeah, I'm from Boise, Idaho, but I started out in the Midwest and worked my way all the way out to the West Coast. And as I did that, I gathered a lot of stories about people who influenced me along the way, usually for the better. I only like positive books, so the only thing you'll find in there is probably really good stories. So.
Yes, indeed, good stories, Mr. Jim Tracy. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. What personal experiences or observations motivate you to write the book focus on building character in man?
Yeah, well, I have 16 grandchildren, and so uh, I realize that some of them are in their 20s, and some of them are yet to be born. Two of them are yet to be born, and I got a lot of chance to influence the people who are a little older as far as my grandkids are concerned. But the younger ones, they would never even know me or know about me if I didn't write a little something to them. And as I started to pen those stories, people told me that, hey, man, you should really think about sharing this to a broader audience. So that was the result of people wanting to hear a little bit more about my life, my business career, some of the philanthropy things, but mostly just about the people who influenced me along the road of life.
Mr. Jim, how would you summarize the book's central thesis in one sentence?
Wow, I'm not very good with one sentence, Daniel. It is the culmination of 66 years of character traits that helped me.
Indeed. What criteria did you use to choose the influencers featured in the book, and why include both historical and contemporary figures?
Well, um, the broad experience that I have covers from my grandfather's time, and he was born in 1903. And it goes all the way, like I said, to some of my grandchildren who are listed in the books, who I obviously have learned at least a lesson or two from, and a lot of people in between. And so, what I focused on is the people who had dramatic impact on me. Sometimes through a singular event, but sometimes through the culmination of many events. Like when I talk about my grandfather, it's not one big cataclysmic event that happened. It's a thousand little moments that kind of push themselves together that displayed the character of character traits of his that can be exemplified in chapter one.
Indeed. How do you define healthy masculinity, and how does your book address misconceptions of societal pressure around this concept?
Yeah, I don't specifically address masculinity. What I address is the character traits that I have learned from men who invested in me. I'm not trying to so much define what masculinity looks like. I'm trying to define what men, in this case, people who I worked with, people who I lived with, people who I hung out with, how they affected me and what character traits they gave to me that turned me into who I am, and then how we transfer those to the next generation, that being my grandkids. I often say that this is a letter to my grandchildren. It's for my grandchildren, or it's to my grandchildren, but it's for everybody else as well.
Indeed, a legacy to the world. And congratulations, Mr. Jim. Keep up the good work. I hope more and more legacy books to come. What actionable steps do you provide for readers to translate character lessons in daily habits?
Well, that's a terrific question, and the reason it is because when I address that in the book, um, I think that character lessons and the character traits, like there's one in there about my uncle called meekness, and it's not so much learned by practicing, it's observed first. And when you see it, I use the analogy, if you're going down the Autobahn in a Volkswagen and you pass a Lamborghini, the Lamborghini has more power. It just chose not to exercise it. And that really is a picture of meekness. And the meekness that was exhibited by my uncle is something that I observed, something that he didn't like take a pen and paper and say, here's the seven steps that you should take. But when you get a picture of it, there's two ways to learn. The first is self-learning, that's training by trauma. And the second one is when you get to learn when someone else paid the tuition. And that's usually done by observing someone else's behavior and then implementing what you saw into your own life.
Mr. Jim, how do you reconcile teaching from influencers who may had personal flaws or controversies?
Yeah, I don't know of anybody who doesn't have some pretty big flaws, myself included. And so, um, as I said when we opened, when you look at this book, you'll find a lot of positive stories, and that I hope over time is a hallmark of what I have left to my grandchildren, because they look at me and they know I'm not perfect, and they know that I've got some flaws, but hopefully we're continuing to work on them. And there is a chapter in there, and it's really focused in on something that dramatically changed me, and that was a faith step. The people who I read about in the book there are pastors who influenced me. So, and if you think about faith, for me, it's about forgiveness. And so, I'm going to choose to step over that question in a very awkward way and tell you that I am a sinner saved by grace and going to heaven anyway. So,
Again, very well said, Mr. Jim. Very well said.
thank you.
How can parents, teachers, or mentors use your book to guide boys and young men?
Well, I think first of all, if you look at the depth of the lessons that are contained in there, they are caricatures of people who responded to other folks. And usually, in this case of this book, they were elder to me, and so they modeled the things that they were trying to teach me. And as I absorbed those, um, I began to understand that while we seek quantity or quality time, it's not really ever accomplished without a certain quantity of time. And if there is an ongoing theme from chapter to chapter, it's that people who influenced me took time when they didn't need to. They invested time when they maybe didn't even have it, and they recognized that it would benefit me, even though it was a very little benefit to them. So if there's a lesson in here for parents, it's like book time with your kids because it goes so fast, and make sure that if you want some quality time, if you want 10 minutes of quality time, you probably better spend 10 hours of quantity.
Yes, people nowadays, our children grow fast.
Oh my.
And how does the book address current cultural challenges men face, like mental health, identity, or social media?
Yeah. Um, in this book, one of the things that I learned, and actually I talk about it in speeches that I give, I hold up three fingers, and the first finger I hold up is the middle one. It's the biggest one, and be prepared because all three are the most important fingers. The middle one is the most important because I think of it as generous listening. And if we listen with our eyes, our ears, our mouth quiet, and our phone down, upside down, hopefully, not looking at us, um, then we're listening generously. We're not hearing what they say, but we're hearing what they mean. The second finger then is the ring finger, which indicates relationships. And we have to invest time in order to build relationships. The third part of that is your pinky finger, which people don't think it's very important, But if you lose a pinky finger, you lose 50% of the strength of your hand. And so that one is called respect. So generous listening, relationship building, and respect. And people say, well, hey, they didn't earn my respect. And I maintain that, hey, sometimes you have to give it before it's earned, and sometimes you have to earn it before it's given. So respect is a two-way street.
Yes, indeed, vice versa, people. And Mr. Dim, did you any research or did any research about the influencers or character development surprise you during the writing process?
My research was based upon 66 years of life. And so when I talk about the people in the book, I talk about them in the first person, because I knew them, I watched them, I lived with them in a lot of cases. I worked with them quite often. And then in some cases, I even put them to bed. I buried them. So
Mm.
there's a lot of lessons that came from my experience, not necessarily from research.
And Mr. Jim, what criticism do you anticipate the book might face, and how would you respond?
Well, I think that the first criticism that I was aware of were people that would read the cover and say, "Well, what about women?" And then if you open the book, the dedication is to the hand that rocks the cradle, and the appreciation that I show right when you open the book is to my wife and my mother and my daughters, and in some cases my granddaughters who have really done a marvelous job in forming me into what I've become. So it is not by any stretch of the imagination a book that is for men only. I anticipate that it will be purchased mostly by women anyway.
Yes,
And Yeah.
certainly. What role does mentorship play in your framework for building character, and how can readers find or become mentors?
Wow. I'm going to go back to that building relationships, the ring finger, if you invest the time. And if you look at even the cover of the book, you'll see three young men sitting on a fence. Well, those are three of my grandsons. That actually comes from a photograph. And
Yes.
I'm up in the airplane, and the airplane is flying away. But it was flying away after I spent some pretty significant time with those young lads. And so if you look again at how we mentor, it must include offering respect sometimes before it's given, building relationships with time. But I think a big part of it these days, generous listening, because people often are so engrossed in what they're doing in our busy society that we have to really focus on learning to and then generously listening and not forming answers before the question is even completed.
Mm, indeed. Which influencers, story, or lessons resonated with you the most, and why?
Wow. There are so many in the book, but there are so many outside of the book as well. But I would say the biggest influencer in my life probably was my grandfather, which is chapter one. There's another chapter in there from a person who showed incredible perseverance. And that's not even the chapter on perseverance. But he was a teacher who took the time both when I was a young man and then older when we had careers that matched up together. And then there's another the chapter on perseverance is I was coming to a place where I had suffered 11 losses in a row in a dog handling career, and two men came alongside me and they said, "Hey, man, you're so close. Just don't quit. Just keep going. You're doing great. You're getting close. Just and it's pretty tough to take when you're 0 for 11." But they encouraged me, and it's not a foreign concept for men to encourage men. We just have to embrace it.
Embrace it, people. Mr. Jim, does the book include exercises or prompts for readers to assess their own character growth?
No, it's I don't look at it as kind of a self-help book. It's a learning book where, much like I learned by people modeling it for me, these are stories where people can look at that story, and it's like that meekness that I talked about. If you're driving a Volkswagen on the Autobahn and you're passing a Lamborghini, you know that that strength in that Lamborghini is under control. And he didn't need to exercise it with going faster than you. He allowed you to go past him.
Indeed. Mr. Jim, as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Well, I didn't really expect to be an author, and so when I wrote the outline and then the part of the chapters, and I sent it into a publisher, they were very interested, and it's Morgan James Publishing out of New York, and they have assured me that they want to complete a 3 book deal. The third the first book is coming out on June 3rd. The second book is called Management by Cliche, and it's a book on how I built a business. And then the third book is under finishing right now. The second one is already edited, but and the third one is we're still the ink's not dry yet. So um,
Yes.
I have enjoyed the process of writing, but I really am not a fan of editing.
Indeed, and good luck to your goals, Mr. Jim, and looking forward for all those books coming. And you are most welcome
Yeah.
to come back. And let's talk about it on Book 101 review and let's promote to the world. And what will
Wow.
be your advice for those people out there want to write their own book too?
Wow. A book, whether it be an idea or a concept or a story you want to tell, or maybe just an idea that you have in fiction that you can tell a story that would people would find compelling, there's nothing that can get you going like beginning. It's really, really difficult to carve out time and be disciplined to take 10 minutes or an hour a day or whatever time you have. And when I get ideas, I have these little note cards. I jot them down on a note card. There's actually 7 more books in my drawer that people know anything about. And when I hear something that resonates with me, I either take a picture of it with my phone or I jot it down on a note card and I just throw it in that book file for the next idea that I have. And so it's a process more than it is an event for me. Because when you get enough of those note cards, you start to think maybe I should start putting this in a more condensed format, and that's really a book, a bunch of great ideas strung together into chapters.
Thank you for your advice, Mr. Jim, and I hope people will follow it. And why do you feel this topic is especially urgent for relevant in today's society? Building man.
Wow. If you looked at the character traits that's how we identify the chapters is by character traits. And all of them are things that might be considered a little bit not as common today in our world, because some of the stories are old. And when
Yes.
you take some old school stories and meld them, I'm getting I'm getting incredible reviews from young people. I'm shocked the young people are the ones who are just gobbling this up. And I was told that people under 29 probably won't buy too many books. What I'm finding is that the ones that actually got copies, some of the early copies, I'm getting the most response from young people. It's crazy cool.
Mm, indeed. How do you address the tension between traditional virtues and the modern emotional intelligence?
Mm. Well, if you think about it, if you look at the vast array of virtues, I'm going to list them for you: loyalty, inspiration, belief, confidence, friendship, influence, trust, leadership. And if you those are all character titles from the book. And if you look at those, how could they possibly be considered not part of emotional intelligence?
Yes,
Yeah,
people. That's truly true, Mr. Jim. Totally agree with you. What
yeah.
lasting impact do you hope the book will have on readers or society?
Wow, I just hope that when people read this, that it improves their life. If if people that life is, and again, I'm talking from a guy who's on Medicare, so I do have some experience with this. But if your life gets better because if you take one of those characteristics, say loyalty, loyalty is not very common today, and especially in companies. But if we help someone be a better manager, and that breeds more loyalty because they're kinder, which is another one. Kindness is another character trait. So if you give them respect and it breeds loyalty because you are kind, wow, we've really changed a life. And we've
Yes.
changed a business, maybe. We've changed a management style. If we help people, everything will be better. That's what it's about.
Yes. Be kind, people, because life is too short.
Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Jim, are there plans to expand on this work? A companion guide for specific demographics?
Well, the publishers are talking to me right now, and they would like perhaps me to expand on it by saying women who built me. And
Yes.
because one thing I don't talk about is, other than my grandfather, probably the biggest influence on my life was my mom, and because she was a um, very tough depression girl who came through hard times and weathered lots of storms in her life, and she pasted a smile on her face and said, "Let's just keep going." And that approach to life made me successful in many ways in business and as a parent and as a grandparent. So I am so grateful. So women who built me is much the same as building men, from just a little different perspective.
Mr. Jim, let's empower women all over the world for your next book. Looking forward for that. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry second season, and of course my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season. Food 101 in its fifth season as well. Geography 101 and Love Letters in third season. And my baby podcast, Mental Health 101, Movie
Ooh.
101 Review, and Music 101 in its fourth season. And Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Jim, how did writing this book challenge or transform your own understanding or character?
Wow. What I learned, for starters, what I learned, things about myself that I had to remember, and in order to, sorry, I lost you just a second. In order to remember them, I had to find out a lot about myself, and as I looked towards, writing is difficult, and so when you're remembering, writing forces you to remember with accuracy, and
Yes,
and you can't help but self-evaluate when that happens, and so it's just been a joy, um, as well as a challenge to bring all of these things with accuracy to the readers, because it is not a fiction book. This is totally nonfiction, man.
yes, indeed. It will be considered as self-help, or it help other people to have a good education regarding building men,
Yes.
right, Mr. Jim?
Yeah,
Mm,
both, and
both.
it has really come up in the parenting class, because I think people are looking for help in parenting too. So that is something that is just another wonderful gift that's been given me, as people are using it to help their own children.
Indeed, parenting. Mr. Jim Tracy, thank you so much for sharing building men to the world. And we are looking forward for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. I'm
All
inviting you
right.
to come back and let's talk about it for your future books to publish. So, Mr. Jim, can you
Okay.
please invite our listeners to support all your books? as well as your
Yes,
upcoming books.
we'll do that.
So, where do you usually buy your books, Mr. Jim?
I like independence. I like Barnes and Nobles. I use Amazon a bit because I'm in the middle of Idaho, and
Yes.
but I really prefer, independent booksellers, small businesses.
Yes, people, let's support the small businesses. Let's promote books over there. So, Mr. Jim, looking forward for more and more and more books to come. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Jim Tracy because if you support him, have I said, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Jim, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank your audience as well.
More to come, people. See you soon.